welcome to Hot News, your most authoritative evening political show. We are coming to you from our studios in Abilinkwe 48 Swan Street here in Accra. We're live on Facebook at Pan-African Television, live on YouTube at Pan-African Television, as well as 48 African countries. You can join in the conversation by sending in your views, comments, and contributions on our WhatsApp/text line. We'll make a time and read all those out for you. You can as well leave your suggestions, questions, comments, and whatnot on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter at Pan-African Television. You can as well share the Facebook Live for other people to also watch tonight's edition of the program. If you're not following us yet, just go on Facebook, like our page, Pan-African Television, share our videos, and of course, watch or get notification to watch all our programs and all of that. My name is Justice Appiah, and tonight on Hot News, we are still looking at the controversial e-levy. Now, it has gotten to a point where we are told that government is considering, withdrawal of the levy from Parliament and then reintroduce another. How true is that? Parliament would reconvene tomorrow, and we are expecting that will be part of, the business of the day, or probably the business of the week. The National Democratic Congress today has held a press conference with some civil society organizations. What are they saying? They are staging yen tuya demo. It translates, we won't pay demonstration. And what are they not paying? They're saying that they are not going to be paying the e-levy. Of course, we'll be playing some videos, or we'll be looking at some excerpts from the National Democratic Congress's, press conference they held today. Without wasting much time, let's listen to, of course, the National Youth Organizer of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, stating the reasons for their demonstration on Thursday. Let's go and listen. We'll be right back.
We are not paying today. Yentria ene, yentria echina. We don't.
On Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, the National Youth Wing of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, notified the police to stage a demonstration dubbed the Yentria demonstration on Thursday, February 10th, 2022, in Accra, as the beginning of a nationwide protest and picketing across the breadth of this country. The rationale behind the demonstration is to, amongst other things, one, give backings to the members of the minority group in Parliament who are fighting at the peril of their lives to stop the Akufo-Addo Mahmoud Bawumia administration from foisting its unpopular e-levy tax down the throats of the ordinary Ghanaian. Two, demand that the pain of university students at the mercy of the UTAC strike comes to an end. Three, the gratuities of NABCO trainees and other outstanding arrears owed young people, from teacher trainees to nursing trainees and any other young person who works for this country and has not been paid what is due, that government sees to it that all those people are paid immediately. Three, the weak city and how Mahmoud Bawumia and his administration can arrest it and make it work again. And five, the nuisance taxes on petroleum products to be rescinded. The objective is to stand in for the citizens of this country who may not have the courage to man up to the intimidation tactics of this government and demand that the Akufo-Addo Mahmoud Bawumia administration free Ghanaians from the bondage of economic deprivation. Government must immediately honor its obligations to university teachers so they return to the lecture halls. Government should urgently pay NABCO beneficiaries who are painfully depressed by the insensitivity of this Akufo-Addo Mahmoud Bawumia administration. We also demand that the price stabilization levy and recovery levy be suspended without fail, and the irrelevant sanitation and pollution levy, all added up to the petroleum build-up, be cancelled. The Ghanaian people have responded overwhelmingly to our call for protests. As a result of this, ladies and gentlemen, leadership of other political parties, civil society organizations, identifiable groups, and Ghanaians of all walks of life have called to join us stage this Yentua demonstration. In the spirit of giving Ghanaians who have voluntarily showed support for the Yentua demonstration, we thought it prudent that there was the need to join the NDC's efforts to the broader movement in order to provide the space for everyone in this struggle. And this has become necessary because most people are afraid to even come on the platform of the NDC because of how you'll be tagged and be insulted by the NPP robots on social media. In view of our great efforts to broaden our coalition against this insensitive government and build a true umbrella for all persons and groups against the mess of this Akufo-Addo government, we are throwing our full support behind a non-partisan coalition. Instead of the NDC staging the demo, we now have an amalgamation of political parties, CSOs, other identifiable groups, etc., coming together under the cloak of the coalition of concerned Ghanaians to stage the Yentua demonstration. And along the line, most members of the coalition will be given the opportunity to address you and their concerns brought to bear. As you can see, we have representatives of all groups here to throw their weight behind the demonstration. We pay glowing tribute to our comrades from the Justice for Ghana movement led by Bernard Mona, who have for the past 2 weeks picketed Parliament after their earlier demonstration against the e-levy, just before Parliament went on recess. There is an example of sacrifice. DS is an example of sacrifices on march. We entreat all Ghanaians to join in occupying Parliament House until the e-levy is rejected. And the nation once again demands your devotion. So we should join hands and occupy Parliament House until Akufo-Addo finally withdraws the e-levy and abandons it.
So that was the National Youth Organizer, yeah, of course. That was the National Youth Organizer of the opposition National Democratic Congress, popularly known as Pablo Appiah. But now let's listen to some civil society organizations at the same press conference and their take on the introduction of the electronic transactions levy. Let's listen to them. We'll be right back.
Want any reduction? It is a no, no, no. Let's welcome Comrade Bernard Mona to speak to us.
Other comrades from other political parties that pledge their support for the Yentua demonstrations that will take place on Thursday. We are happy to be part of this mobilization that will put pressure on our government to withdraw completely the issue of pickpocketing of the Ghanaian purse. We don't consider electronic transactions levy a tax. To the view of the Justice for Ghana, we believe that taxes are levied on profits. They are levied on gains on capital. They are levied on interest and other incomes. But taxes are never levied on the working capital of businesses. And it is the duty of our government to ensure that in whatever they do, the well-being of the Ghanaian is taken paramount. But in this instant, in spite of the many taxes that our government is taking from us, they have decided that the little that is in our pocket, they want to take away. It is the reason for which when the NDC called for the Yentua demonstration, we told them that this cannot be an NDC affair. It should be an affair for all Ghanaians. And we have come to learn solidarity. So we want to assure you that we'll mobilize in our numbers We'll partner with all those that this will impact, and I'm sure that every Ghanaian will be impacted negatively on, so that we can tell our government that enough is enough. Thank you so much.
Call on the coalition of the concerned university students, George Kofi Appiah, to speak on behalf of the coalition. You can come with your team to support you. You can join them as...
I know you are surprised seeing the leaders of the coalition of concerned university students here, but I would want to humbly start with a saying by a popular leader by name Martin Nyomola, who said, "First they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Secondly, they came for the capitalist, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a capitalist. Later, they came for the pastors, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a pastor. But now they came for me, and nobody was able to speak for me." Before I start with this brief speech, I want the good people of all university students across the nation to note that it is now or never. And why do I say this? We need to speak up today for a better tomorrow. In this vein, I would want you to understand that there is a lot of impact and bad effect of e-levy on students. So we pledge our support that coming Thursday after tomorrow's demonstration, the coalition of concerned university students throw their support solidly behind all these combined corporate civil societies, that we shall be there in our numbers as intellectuals and support a good cause for a great nation. We are the future leaders, and we speak today that
Selom Dramani Dramado, Unemployed Graduate Network, to also speak to us.
A note of caution to the Akufo-Addo administration that given the level of anger that is welling up in the youth of this country, they should, attach some importance to the mandate we have given them. I am not going to say that much. Thursday is where we'll have the platform to, exude whatever is welling up in us. On that note, I would like to thank you all for giving us this coverage. I would, ask you to, come in your numbers to join us, even you, the media. This time around, you are suffering. Quietly, you call me, challenge Ramani, the moment in the will not go agree. You to join us. Just put your bring your microphone, and also let's turn it on you like Pata. Then you say, oh, challenge the thing, know the view. We don't go agree. Challenge, thank you very much.
Thursday, Okada ride the beer. Thursday, yeah, delivery more beer. What about that? I don't know for Okada Nekoto. What about that? I don't know for Okada Nekoto. Thursday, motor ride the beer. You want more? You be here, Juma. Question say, you need an Akufo-Addo beka. Amanati as you say, Sikani ye nibi, yen chia, and yes yen chia, yen nibi. Ejuma nkoso, na dia na ebe ye dia chia taxes. Enti esene na Akufo-Addo say tax no, yen chia ne, yen chia ochina. Medam ase.
Some civil society organizations right there, they were also part of today's press conference at the National Democratic Congress's headquarters here in Accra. But the NDC says, we no go pay. Hey, we no go pay. Then they stage Yen Tuya demo. They are staging what they preferred to call Yen Tuya demonstration. Translates, we will not pay demonstration, and that is going to happen on Thursday. Come Thursday. They have invited everybody and all of that. Now, tomorrow, the members of parliament would sit. They will reconvene in parliament. And, of course, we are expecting that the A-levy is relayed in parliament, of course, for a discussion, for a deliberation, and all of that, on that. How is it going to pan out? We also know that government is considering, withdrawal of the e-levy, and that would also go to Parliament and all of that. But that is going to be done in a way to reintroduce it. What are they going to do? Are they reducing it? Are they scrapping it off? What would it be? We don't know. But we are also told that the finance minister has reduced the amount or the percentage from 1.75% to 1.5%. But the minority caucus in Parliament says no. They said they will not agree. They would not, allow that to go through. It's either zero e-levy or you come to Parliament, we vote on the matter, and they are determined to, vote in order to disapprove the e-levy. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how the demonstration also goes. Of course, on Thursday. But I've been joined in the studio by the Deputy National Organizer of the ruling New Patriotic Party, Mr. Elvis Buta. Elvis has been out of the scene for quite some time now, fortunately. After he arrived in the country, Hot News is the very first program he has appeared on. My brother, good evening. How are you doing?
That was because you caught me on a very hot note to speak on hot issues relating hot e-levy.
Of course, people are waiting to hear your position on the e-levy, and so we'll see.
I can only imagine that. It's well. So nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too, my brother.
Of course, all our Pan-African viewers.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
Right. Also in the studio is another brother and a friend, the Savannah Communications officer of the opposition National Democratic Congress. He's also been out of the scene for quite some time now. I don't know what he's been up to. He's in the studio in person of Malik Basintale. Malik, how are you doing? You are looking good in opposition. What have you been up to? I see. Just like myself. Yes.
Good. I've been up north. I shuttled to the northern parts of this country.
Right.
And I'm in Accra. And I've been, there to see what's going on. At the marketplaces, on the farmlands, and partook in all economic activities as far as the northern sector is concerned. And I think that I would have some refreshing news. I would have, what's been happening there. I'll share all the plights of the people of North to you here. And maybe my brother will also tell us what's happening in the national communities. And whether you're still willing to go on.
Oh, I am from the same North with you, so we should be talking. We should be talking about.
Yeah. We were made to know that there's those eyes on you, and so I will bring you up to date with what has been happening locally in this country.
Right.
What his government has decided to do.
Okay. All right. So before we delve into the discussions, I have good news for our viewers. And what is that good news? You all know Trasaco Valley. We have what we call the Trasaco Springs. And of course, if you are talking about a real estate, developers who have been tried, tested, and proven competent, you cannot talk of any other than Trasaco Valley. They are saying that they have premium service plots for sale in prime locations. Very, very affordable. You won't get it anywhere. Get it from me. Should you go and the price is outrageous, come to me and tell me that I'm lying. You get a very good, deal from Trasaco. You just have to call them on 0556-592658, 0556-592658, and you're sorted. And of course, so let me come back here and start with you, Elvis, on the issue of the e-levy.
He said he was going to bring me to date on what is happening, so I actually thought that
I know that you are abreast with the issues, and you know what is happening.
Let's move on.
Outside this country, you know what has been happening and all of that. There have been a lot of issues. We've discussed a lot, but there is a particular argument that this government has received a lot in terms of loans. That there's an Auditor General's report, and that report has indicated that over 12.3 billion has been lost through misappropriations and all of that. People are asking government to search out those people to retrieve those monies. People are also saying that you have borrowed in excess of over 244 billion with nothing to show. Now you are painting a picture as though the e-levy is the lifeline of this country. Without the e-levy, we can't do anything. You heard the Agric minister said that without e-levy, farmers will not get fertilizers. You heard, somebody also said, a party guru who said that without the e-levy, it means that free SHS would have to be cancelled. Without the e-levy, we won't have roads and all of that. What is this about all of a sudden we need to have e-levy to solve all problems of this country? You are, a deputy national organizer or the deputy national organizer of your party. What is this about e-levy that you cannot scrap, you cannot do without it?
Well, I think, need I say much? I do sincerely think that this is the right opportunity to send shout out to our cherished viewers, whom I haven't had the opportunity to interact with for quite some time. Well, we will have more time to interact in the days to come. Justice Appiah, the purpose of governance is to thrive through thick and thin for the advancement of the socio-economic plights of people, its citizens. Now, fundamentally, to do so requires the exercise of sovereignty, which in itself emanates from the people.
Right.
And so, clearly, e-levy, like many other levies or tax systems, are matters of policy directions, in fact, economic policy mechanisms that are intended, ideally, for the well-being of the people and for the socio-economic, conduciveness of the country. In adapting or adopting some of these policies, if indeed sovereignty emanates from the people, then it behooves on government to want to take into consideration the major plight of people. E-levy, for me, constitutes one of the very innovative ways by which a country may mobilize revenues for development.
What is innovative about e-levy?
Secondly, and I will come to that, innovative to the extent that considering the kind of constraints countries, developing countries generally, find themselves, there is no pretense about the fact that we have not gotten to that stage of production cycle where we will run production-based economies. So most of the times, we are, in fact, for majority of the times, we are running a tax system in order to advance development. But then, to do this, you first of all would have to consider that much as e-levy may be innovative, that is relative to other mechanisms such as going to IMF, in which regard, if we had time, we could consider the technicalities of these things, because, of course, going to IMF will raise issues of structural adjustment conditionalities that may, yes, that may,
consider going to
that
IMF.
may actually impose its own social detriment on the people.
Right.
So now, on the background of that, you may want to consider e-levy as a lesser devil. Admittedly, from what I have observed whilst even coming back to the country, it is clear that we have found ourselves in between the rock and the hard place. And there is no pride in such admittance.
I see.
And so government is now torn in between these two to make a decision. However, e-levy, we consider the timing, because you have a majority of the Ghanaian population that is quite an informal engagement. That is number one. And so the question is, on the heels of current complaints of Ghanaians, economic hardship, the rise in fuel cost, and the pertinent complaints that emanate from every corner of this country, it tells you clearly that timing may be wrong. That is number one. Number two, apart from timing being wrong, I think that much as e-levy may have been quite a lesser devil to bargain for, there appears to be lack of broader consultation on the heart of the matter. And in fact, consultations even with Parliament, that is the two opposing factions of Parliament
right.
have failed to come into consensus in respect of the parameters within which, if at all there is an agreement, the parameters within which same should be operationalized. So these are practicalities, I think, that compels government. And if I may, of course, advisory as it may be, I think that it is time for a reconsideration of the kind of consultation that must be done.
But Elvis, my issue is that why is it that all of a sudden e-levy has become what will give oxygen to this country?
E-levy
Without
cannot
e-levy,
be.
nothing could be done. Because those are some of the arguments.
Justice Appiah, that theory doesn't work. And I believe that...
You mean that the theory of the agreement
theory, e-levy cannot be a panacea for the solution of all the Ghanaian problems.
But that's what you're making it look like. That's what the people are making it look like.
Let's be objective in interrogating such critical issue in national interest.
Okay.
Yes, what may appear the blasphemous propaganda advanced against it without considering the technical advantages of it. My decision now and my argument now is hinged on timing and other socio-economic mechanisms. Look, the IMF out there is a monetary market. There are different packages out there that one may appreciate. So you go, you assess the various packages and make a decision as to which one may better suit your situation. In fact, rich and poor countries all go to IMF to appreciate various products.
Right.
So it is therefore not too much evil to consider going to IMF, so long as you know what conditions you're going to bargain for. I criticize the Mahama administration for going to IMF, not because IMF was bad, but because they went and could not do a proper bargaining and brought in particular conditions that were more detrimental and increased monumentally the suffering of the Ghanaian people. And we can delve into the numerous aspects of, in fact, the freezing of employment alone for the youth was something that was not going down well with the Ghanaian youth. So it is the same thing we're talking about here. If e-levy, at the end of the day, you have the majority of Ghanaian voices speaking against it, if e-levy is counted by industry as not being good, I think that the humble thing for government to do, and for all of us to agree to do in government, is to, one, the call to withdraw it and the moves by the finance minister to withdraw same for broader consultation.
You mean that government must eat the humble pie?
I think that is laudable.
Right.
That the humble pie be eaten, we go back on the drawing board, we do a more deeper consultation. Look, in all honesty, I think that the problem with e-levy is in two sides. One, government have failed to communicate properly the details and the benefits therein in e-levy as against other options of securing finances.
Right.
And two, a mischievous minority, so to say, in parliament and a mischievous opposition party have actually cashed in on the lapses of the lack of appropriate conversation on this matter to demonize the whole idea. So as it stands now,
but what's good about e-levy? If you're saying
the majority of Ghanaians,
now you're saying that you're saying that minority is demonizing.
I have exemplified to you that.
But what's good about e-levy?
Okay, so like I said, it is a situation
people have said that that amounts to double taxation. A situation where, Elvis, you're a public sector worker, you're paid, right? You have been deducted your tax from source. You have decided to put the rest of the money on your wallet. Then you would have to send 500 cedis to your mother, 500 cedis to your brother, and you're going to be taxed again. Is that not supposed to be double taxation?
Well, it depends on what your definition of double taxation is. Because in the first place, you go for salary, and there is tax on it. You go to the mall to shop with that money, there is tax on it. So that argument doesn't even come in, and it is one of the mischief by the NDC. Are you getting? By the opposition. So these are not rudimental issues that affect the foundations of the conversation. Let's be serious in this country. What should be the situation? And I started by defining the very nature of sovereignty. And I'm saying that the only reason that Ghanaians, the majority of Ghanaians ostensibly are against e-levy is enough for the humble pie to be eaten. And I have argued that clearly there are economic fundamentals at the moment that suggest that there is so much hardship, okay, on all of us. And so on the heels of that, should you be conducting e-levy that will affect largely the informal system, which is about 70% of, economic activation, then it tells you that clearly government must reconsider.
There are reasons why people think that we don't even need the e-levy in the first place. You recall that prior to the 2016 elections, one of the things you trumpeted at the time is about changing this economy from taxation to production. You lambasted the previous government for introducing taxes you described as nuisance taxes. How different is e-levy from those taxes that were introduced?
So clearly you have played back into the very bracket I was swimming.
Do we need it?
Okay.
How innovative is that? It is not.
Clearly, if you consider the kind of taxes that were described as nuisance taxes, and the subsequent inability for it to be accounted for legitimately on what, of course, it has been used for in this country. For example, the hype in capital budgeting. The Nkrumah Circle is an example. You know the excess of over $200 million that went actually into it. Those are some of the things we are saying. Look, when you do taxations and you are not clear in your definition of what it has been used for, and on top of that, if you remember, we're talking about 27 nuisance tax so described then. On top of that, you still go to IMF and bargain for a package. That comes clearly as a disadvantage to Ghana. Then everybody is right to criticize him. Now, if you come to the current issue of e-levy,
right?
And as I told you, I don't go by the rhetoric that all of a sudden e-levy becomes the panacea solution to every problem.
So let's put it on record. Are you disagreeing with your party gurus who have
in the first place, e-levy is not a party matter.
No, but the Greek minister...
It is a matter of governance.
But it is the New Patriotic Party that is in government right now.
That is correct.
So what I'm basically saying is that, are you disagreeing with the Greek minister? Are you disagreeing with other, government officials who have said, who have painted a picture as though without the e-levy nothing could be done, including the finance minister?
Of course.
Okay.
I am entitled to that opinion.
Right.
To the extent that governance is about the appreciation of alternatives in the exercise of sovereignty. Okay. Governance is all about protecting the sovereign integrity of the country. So if majority of the people says, no, we don't want it, it then doesn't matter how good or bad it is. You must listen to the will and the plight of the people. That alone is a major issue that should take us back to the conversation on the drawing board. That is number one. And so if all of a sudden it is so to say that, well, without e-levy, they cannot be fertilizers, I wouldn't buy into that argument for the fact that you are in the first place saddled with the responsibility to look for alternative sources of making the fertilizer available with or without e-levy. By the way, do recall that the promise of the Nana Addo administration to Ghanaian people in respect of development was not hooked to the condition of e-levy.
What has happened to changing the economy from taxation to production?
On principle, that is not a workable explanation, and I am not sure that is the motive of the president.
I see.
Now, to talk about this issue you have just raised now,
changing the economy from taxation to production.
Yes, so clearly, unless again we fail to understand value chain operationalization, you realize that 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years is not enough to change a country from the visual cycle of a developing economy.
So in other words, are you saying that at the time you were making those promises, you knew that it was not feasible?
At the time we were making those promises, their feasibility is a different subject to talk about. The fact that it is a long-run effect does not make it unfeasible. The fact that the dividends or the benefit or the end deliverable of that project is a long-term effect does not become a substitute for the fact that it is not feasible. It is feasible, and I think that adequate, foundations have been laid in order to realize that. But that foundation is not hinged on e-levy, which currently, so to say, appears to be precarious, rejected or met with opposition by a lot of people. The controversy out there is appalling. And so it should not be that government must, by hook or sinker, implement e-levy. That is the argument I'm making.
Right.
So I am not saying that it is good or it is bad. A judgment as to whether it is good or bad rests in the people of Ghana. And they are largely being represented in parliament. And so the parliamentarians cannot agree on it. Civil society groups are not agree on it. The larger picture out there, so to say, in the public are not agree on it. So that is why the government cannot disregard. I would not advise government to disregard all these controversies and
but they have done so far.
We can't say they have done so because an attempt to convince the people for a change of mind does not amount to a disregard for their plight. Otherwise, you would only be right if by some way or so by some crook means e-levy was still implemented.
Have you listened to the president recently? He said that the e-levy has generated a lot of disputations, he knows, but he is determined in persevering to make sure that we approve the e-levy. How is he going to do that?
So that is the subjectiveness of the statement. To say that he is persevering does not necessarily mean that he is arrogantly implementing it or he is arbitrarily exercising that particular rule. Look, and that is why I say that government through the appropriate ministry
we have had
should do the appropriate. No, can I establish that point?
Wait a minute. You established that point, and then after establishing that point, I'll go to Malik. But we have had an MPP member of parliament who said that they will implement, they will approve the e-levy, and nobody can do anything about it.
Well, that probably might be a statement
that's very
advanced,
true or false,
in ignorance of what governance is. And I will distance myself from such a comment if indeed it is the case. I don't know who must have made that, but I would not stand by that. And so clearly the president's decision to persevere is, to my understanding, to strive to let the Ghanaian people understand the compelling need for which e-levy is necessary and why probably it is a lesser devil than, let's be very honest, I'm not happy with all these things. Whether e-levy, IMF, as a matter of fact, there are several other levies that have worked in this country under both the NDC and the NPP. Some actually, if the times were like this, worse than the e-levy. The question should be, how do we put this country on the pedestal of growth and avoid all this go-come? Look, he is seated here. The market he enters as an NDC man with his family is the market. This is the same market I go. It's the same market you go.
Exactly.
You fuel from the same filling stations I fuel. So there are critical things that must be debated nationally. And so e-levy may be good, e-levy may be innovative, e-levy may be a better option than IMF. The Ghanaian people cannot agree with it.
People think that that's a lazy approach of generating revenue for this country rather than it being
taxation as a whole. It's a lazy man approach
also
to development.
The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, once said that he doesn't think that mobile money is going to be taxed because as far as he, the Vice President, is concerned, a lot of people who are on mobile money are poor, and that taxing mobile money wouldn't be, have you
interviewed Dr. Bawumia on this?
Of course, Dr. Bawumia said it on the sister station.
No, I am asking. So the current happenings, that probably, you want to suggest the current happenings contradicts his earlier statement.
Exactly, that's exactly what he does.
Did you interact with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia?
Not currently, but...
So, stick to my opinion also on this platform that irrespective of the theorization behind e-levy, I am saying that fundamentally, if governance is about the sovereign will of the people, it has been confronted with a vote of no confidence by the Ghanaian people. The humble pie to eat is to go back. We either withdraw, go back to the drawing board, re-engage stakeholders, come back with the conversation, and let people see the need. So if the finance, so that then tells you that my point stands vindicated.
Right.
That look, if the policy was passed in the appropriation bill, government would not have been doing all these things we are doing now.
Very well.
It takes a listening government to do that. Do remember that this is not the first levy that have met opposition in this country.
Stiffer opposition.
Yes, this is not the first one. Under our government, it is not. In fact, remember this other mandatory toll levy.
Right.
Do you recall it?
Very well.
civil society groups, parliament, and Ghanaians opposed it. At the time, we didn't have a hung parliament. We had overwhelming majority, yet on principle, the president instructed that it be withdrawn.
Right.
So withdrawing e-levy is not a problem for the NPP and for its government. I am saying that one, there have been a conversational lapse. Two, it comes as a disadvantage to the majority of the informal sector. And these two are pertinent enough to justify a withdrawal of e-levy. That is not to say that the mischievous and blasphemous condemnation by the minority stands. I think that the minority could have come more intellectual.
I'll come back to you once
again. The minority could have come more fairly than the too much, game to incite people not to even see anything good at all about the e-levy. That is wrong.
I have 1,000 questions to ask you, but I'll come back once.
1,000. It means actually we leave here next month.
My director is really being funny. But let me come to you, Malik, on the issue of the e-levy. Is the minority in parliament not being unnecessarily, for lack of a better word, rejecting in this e-levy and all of that?
Well, good evening to your viewers. I think my introductory message didn't go out there.
Right.
Because I wasn't mic'd.
Very well. But you were mic'd, except that it wasn't working well.
No, I wasn't.
You were? Oh, really?
You weren't?
Yeah, I wasn't. So
you were mic'd afterwards.
I was mic'd afterwards.
Very well. That's right.
So your mischief against it didn't go out. Okay, so that we leave it at that.
That's all right. That's all right. Yes.
To my brother.
Yeah.
Clearly, I think from one point, he spoke like President Akufo-Addo then in opposition. Especially when on the 9th of October 2016, President Akufo-Addo said to the business community and entrepreneurs that he was going to be a president that would ease them off their tax burdens. He was going to support their businesses flourish, and he was going to create more jobs. Again, I remember vividly when President Akufo-Addo stated in clear terms that he was going to move this country from taxation to production.
Okay.
That was the Akufo-Addo in opposition. That was the Dr. Bawumia or Alhaji Bawumia in opposition. Today, power has been given to them. And I feel very surprised that, among the things they claim they want to do with the e-levy is the construction of roads, hospitals, schools. And I appear very amazed that this is a government that has borrowed 360 billion, the highest in the history of the Republic of Ghana.
They have borrowed how much?
They have lifted our public debt to 360 billion.
2 billion.
From 122
billion
to 360 billion. Right. In fact, if you look clearly at what President Akufo-Addo alone has borrowed, it is more than all past presidents, from President Nkrumah to Kutukat.
But they have refuted that claim.
No, it is clear.
No, so what they are saying is that you don't say that the current government has borrowed that much because there's some interest that will accrue on the 122 you had left to them, and so you cannot put all those together and say that this government has borrowed this much.
You see, as we speak today, on the run, our public debt is 350 billion.
Okay.
It's still rising. We left it at 122 billion. In fact, it was about 120 billion. But
right.
Let me agree that 122 billion.
But you took it at 9 billion.
They have taken it.
No, but you took it at 9 billion.
Calculate.
Did you take it at 9 billion?
I beg your pardon. President Mahama did 84 billion in 4 years. When you tabulate it, 80 billion virtually. When you tabulate it and you add on to what Akufo-Addo has done in 4 years, Akufo-Addo has done.
No, we are talking about the President Mills Mahama government.
No,
you took it at 9 billion.
I cannot
compare
an 8-year regime to a 5-year regime. I want to compare a 4-year regime to a 4-year regime. And
but you are comparing a 4-year regime to a 5-year regime. No, you can't do that.
No, so a 4-year regime to a 4-year regime meant that President Mahama did 80 billion.
Okay.
And President Akufo-Addo did 200 billion.
I see.
Clearly. And it's on the radar. That is one point. This is a government that has taxed
the people of this country to the extent that they have introduced what we call a Ebola tax. They have increased our bus margins. COVID-19 levy has been brought national insurance under NHIL. They have increased, I mean, every sector of the economy has been taxed by the NPP government. And today, you agree with me that we are purchasing fuel at about 7.4 per litre. You agree?
Right.
This is a government that has received grants than any other government in this country.
But don't forget that they were also faced with the COVID-19 pandemic.
They received a lot of grants and support. In fact, the World Bank alone gave them over 100 million.
Okay.
Lots of other corporate institutions locally. I remember vividly that you had the Ghana Commercial Bank.
The ravages of the COVID-19. Of course, the state is not recovering.
I mean, I am coming to that, right, and I'm telling you the amounts of money President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia has received under their regime alone. Fast forward, this government comes to tell the people of this country that we no longer want to go and borrow out there, and so we want you locally, okay, to contribute some monies. And mind you, Justice, I want to break down the e-levy into a simple man's understanding.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, the e-levy simply means that when you withdraw 100 Ghana cedis, take 2 cedis, 75 pesos, go back again and send it to President Akufo-Addo and the telcos. So that President Akufo-Addo gets 1 cedi, 75 pesos, and the telcos gets 1 cedi. That is what it simply means. It simply means that the government is saying that any amount of money
the government of Ghana gets 1.75%, with the telcos getting 1%. Not President Akufo-Addo.
No, but he's the president, and they are bringing it into force. And in fact, Dr. Bawumia is more interested in this e-levy. Dr. Bawumia is more interested in this e-levy than even President Akufo-Addo.
I see.
Now, it simply means that when you withdraw an amount of money, go back and send this amount to government so that government survives. That is what it simply means. And I have consistently said, and I think that I heard my brother clearly put it, that it's a lazy man's approach and a lazy man's way of taxing the citizenry.
No, it's an innovative way of doing it.
Well, I did a simple analysis, Justice.
Right, go ahead.
And if 100 Ghana cedis should circulate within 4 people, it means that they are going to pay over 10 Ghana cedis.
100 Ghana cedis.
If 100 Ghana cedis.
100 Ghana cedis is not charged.
If 100 Ghana... from what percent amount is charged?
No, it's from above 100 cedis.
Yeah, so if above 100 Ghana cedis a cent, if 101, you want me to use 101
right.
a cent.
Okay, right.
101 cedis a cent. There's a 1.75, tax on it. That goes to President Akufo-Addo, goes to the government, if you want me to put it like that. If this amount of money circulates within just 4 people, it means that they're going to pay over 10 cedis in excess. Let me explain that. The 1 cent is going to pay 2.75. If he also transfers to another person, he's going to pay 2.75. If he goes to withdraw, he's going to pay 2.75. And if you tally all this together, it amounts to over 10 cedis. Now let me bring it in business terms.
Right.
Are you aware that the man who sells cement, a bag of cement, makes about 1 Ghana cedis profit on every bag he sells? At most, 2 Ghana cedis. And so if the man who sells cement sells 2 bags of cement, let me peg the price of cement at 50 cedis or 51 cedis, and he sells 2 bags of cement, that amounts to 102 cedis, right? And he's to transfer this money to somebody again. Indirectly, the profit he made on the cement he sold is going to President. That is what it simply means. And so I simply cannot understand why President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia, is always interested in tampering with the finances of the citizenry. You remember, upon assumption of office, the first thing they did was to collapse banks. People's accounts were locked. People's monies were locked. People's loans they had taken were compounded. And all these monies had to be paid and catered for by them. Now, in taxation, let me make this simple analysis. Taxes come in 3 folds. There's a tax on what you earn.
Okay.
There's a tax on what you buy. And there's a tax on what you own. So, for the Ghanaian worker out there who takes a salary, there's a first tax on whatever you earn as a salary. So, if you earn about 1,000 cedis, okay, at the end of the month, the taxes that goes to government would be accrued to about 200 Ghana cedis. So, at the end of the day, your take home is about 800 cedis. Those are taxes on what you earn. Now, taxes on what you buy. The remaining 800 Ghana cedis. Remember that every bottle of water you buy is taxed again by government. Every mineral you buy is, in fact, government because the Kenke seller pays revenue to the
indirectly.
Indirectly, and pays taxes. So you're going to use this 800 Ghana cedis to buy things that have been taxed again by government. Then there's a tax again on what you own. In fact, let me even go back to tax on what you buy. Fuel. There's already COVID-19 levy on it. The boost margins have been increased by this government. Fuel prices are, skyrocketing. And so this little income you earn as a Ghanaian worker would be taxed again by government when you go to purchase things in the market or fuel. Now, taxes on what you own. Remember that we have what we call property rate. When you live in your house, you, the Ghanaian worker, would pay taxes on your own building or on your own land again, and taxes again on what you own in your vehicle. For example, your vehicle, you go and renew your license and renew all those things. These are taxes that go to government. How much of this money will be left? Then the final killer is when you go to even send money to your mother in the village. The government will just slash it and take whatever little earnings you have made from
no country developed without taxes. Why are we making a whole issue out of introduction?
I am coming to that now. When countries tax and when countries are able to accrue all these things I have proven to you, they use it in developing their countries.
Right.
So you find that unemployment rates are on the low. You find out that they are constructing roads. You find out that they are creating employment for people. You find out that they are building schools. They are building hospitals. This is exactly what other countries do.
But this government has done all these things you have mentioned. They are constructing roads. They are creating jobs. For instance, the NAPO and all of that.
What has happened to NAPO? Where are the NAPO recruits? These are people that still go to the ministry to sleep because they haven't paid them their arrears. People are attacking the government because they want to be what they were told wasn't what happened. The finance minister himself has mounted a podium to say that there is not enough space. Government can no longer even, recruit people into public sector. Tell me a single sustainable job that was created by President Akufo. That is one. Tell me a brand new senior high school, let me limit it to the Savannah region, that was built by President Akufo. Tell me one hospital, one hospital. All the hospitals today that are surviving.
I know that they started the STEM academy schools. They are near
all the hospitals in this country that are functioning. Were brought by
I am saying mention one brand new hospital that you built from scratch.
Massa.
Right, Elvis is here. I'm sure he'll give you one. Anyway, but
I'm saying one.
Yes, I'll give him the opportunity
to respond to that. The factories that were promised the people of this country,
they are building them.
Okay, show me the factories. I want to know them.
What about the Casa de Europa?
Casa Breco?
No, the Casa de Europa
is part of it.
And then
Appiah is part.
Of course.
And then B Foster is part.
But the Eco Juice was a factory.
These are the factories that the government is laughing at.
What about the Eco Juice?
I'm telling you that Casa Breco is part.
When you go to Appiah, B Foster factories.
When you go to Koso, they have added B Foster. When you go to Tamale, they have added Moto King company. Moto King, the one distribution factory. Ever pure drinking water, part of it. And these are the factories we are talking about. These are factories that already existed. And so justice, other countries that have taxed have used these taxes to develop the country. President Akufo till date cannot account for the monies he borrowed. 250 billion. In addition to our public debt,
they have implemented free senior high school policy. Of course, they have produced one constituency, one ambulance. They have done the digital, address system, digitalization of the economy, and all of that.
That brings me to explain.
How did you expect them to fund all
why President Akufo needs to account more to the people of this country? Under President Akufo, from 2017 till date, annually, our fuel revenues that come in from our petroleum corridors amount to over 2 billion in excess. Unprecedented. Because under President Mahama, some of our oil funds were in dispute. We came and won the case. President Akufo came into force. It increased from over $600 million to over $2 billion.
Right.
That had been accrued by President Akufo. They told us part of those monies were supposed to be used to fund free SHS. Today, when you go to our senior high schools, okay, lecture, even let me go to the tertiary institutions. Our lecturers till date are still on strike. Our senior high schools keep changing reopening dates just because there's not enough money to feed them. It is under-resourced. Monies are not tripping into the corridors. In December, Charles held the press conference and stated clearly that if they mean to go by what government gives them, they'll close down all schools. And this is what our educational system has become.
Isn't it the more reason why we need to support government to generate revenue in order to finance?
That is the more reason why government needs to tell us what they've used the monies they got to do. That is the more reason why we must summon President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia to to tell us what over 250 billion, over 100 billion from the World Bank, over 600 million gross reserves President Mahama left for them has been used for. That is the more reason why we must summon them to preach to us. So that is clearly. I have listened to a lot of people around this country. I have visited marketplaces, and just tomorrow, the students of this country
another market tomorrow.
Just tomorrow, the students of this country are demonstrating.
Yes.
On Thursday, civil society, political parties, alliance of political parties are demonstrating. And so, if President Akufo-Addo really listens to the citizenry, if Dr. Bawumia for once, Alhaji Bawumia listens to the citizenry, he will know that even the people from Waliwali are opposed to these taxes. And nobody, the vendors sitting there and charging, the people who go to transfer money. Dr. Bawumia has consistently told us that we are moving on to an electronic system. Indeed, once, in this transfer into an electronic system, you start imposing taxes in the electronic corridor. How do you expect people to cling on to it again? Because any monies you put on your wallet, indeed, will be taxed by this government. And so we are saying that in simple terms, we do not know what President Akufo-Addo has used all the monies he borrowed for. We don't know what he has used all the grants he borrows for. We don't know what he has used all the taxes he has imposed us to do. We don't know what he uses all our oil revenues to do. And so we cannot simply understand why he wants to now push the burden onto the ordinary Ghanaian in my village through the taxation of mobile money.
Right, thank you so much, Malik, for your submission. So please give me 10 minutes to wrap up properly. Viewers, you are still watching Hot News right here on Pan-African Television with me, Justice Appiah. Keep your messages coming in. I'll make a time and read all those up for you. Now, Elvis, I'll give you 5 minutes uninterrupted to respond to
this is the problem I rather have created for us in coming late. As an opposition communicator who should have even been here earlier to do the kind of the kind of propaganda that has been done.
You think
in the end,
it was a propaganda?
Yes, in the end, no technical explanation on e-levy was actually granted. And let me use these 5 minutes to espouse that it is completely ignorant. Get my words clear, I'm not referring to him as being ignorant.
Okay.
But the notion that it is morally sinful for taxation to be advanced on things, especially in the electronic space, is a statement made in ignorance. One, if you have had the opportunity of living outside of this country, in Europe, in the Americas, anywhere, including countries that are going cashless, there is no single electronic transaction that does not come at a fee. Now, the tripartite taxation cycle he has given, perfectly on point. The handouts my brother is keeping here are really good handouts. So that is correct. However, that is something every government have done, and every government in everywhere in the world. Why? Because even gift, are you aware that constitutionally and legally, even gift, should I gift you an amount of money, it is taxable. There is tax on gift.
I know that there's a gift tax.
There's a gift tax.
But that is
so clearly
knowledge 101.
So clearly, you don't let it look as if it is President Nana Akufo-Addo who is taking taxes in 3 folds.
Who is bringing the...
That is not the debate here. Look, I have engaged in an intellectual discourse on governance vis-a-vis socio-economic interactions. And I have been able to stand my grounds, even as a member of the ruling party, to say that no, on these grounds of public affairs, let us pull back on e-levy, do proper re-engagement, have proper consensus building, and decide whether as a nation we are moving on with it or we are not moving on with it. For me, it makes sense to have electronic levies, which, by the way, is not narrowed to just mobile money as the opposition is making us believe. That aside, they cite free SHS as a failure, just as he did here, touting the number of markets. In fact, over the past 1 week, my brother said he's not been in the system, but it appears over the past 1 week, every market in Ghana, he has gone there. Are you getting it?
Been roaming the market.
Yeah, that is the point. That is the point I am making.
He's off the screen.
Yes, so okay, that appears that in being off the screen, he has visited all the marketplaces.
Absolutely
right.
If indeed you have visited all the marketplaces, and have also had knowledge of the schools, you will realize that the situation of this feeding of free SHS people you are talking about was worse, especially in the north, when the free SHS was not even implemented. In fact, the situation is better now. Tell me, when under the Nana Akufo-Addo's administration, even with the high cost of free SHS, which by the way is benefited largely by people of your region, and you should be very proud about that. You see, governance is not about the fact that you are in opposition, you must necessarily negatively oppose everything. You and I, especially from the north, know what free SHS actually means for us. We can tackle the policy bottlenecks of it. Are you getting it? But not condemn it. I went to Demango Secondary School in your region. When you came and sat here, I started speaking Gonja to you. I have sat home. No, hold on. I have sat home for months over the inability of government to give feeding grants.
Right.
So you don't come and sit on national television and actually postulate as though it is in the era of free SHS, government is unable to feed secondary schools, when the situation is a far better improvement now than under the period of the JM you are talking about. So clearly, when you are doing policy comparison, it must be on the basis of intellectual parameters that espouses technicalities that will advance the country.
He threw a question.
And so I am saying that.
He threw a question. The question is that
I am saying
you have
that
received some huge sums of money within the 5 years in power. What have you used those monies
no,
for? That you want us
huge
to
monies were received by every government.
That you want us to ask for 9 billion.
If you are talking about monies that were brought in,
the borrowings, the grants,
monies that were brought in during COVID, whatever hundreds of millions received each, and you are asking which roles or what activities they have been used for, clearly that is distant from the debate. Because we all know that those monies were brought on purpose and were used for those purposes. Do you know major economies have been grounded on their knees? You see, let us have fair media interactions on these arguments.
Right.
I have made it clear to you that I don't support e-levy on certain grounds of principle. Saying that my government should go back for consultation before we move on, because governance is a consensus. Major economies have been brought down their knees, including Europe. Are you getting it? As a result of COVID. In Africa, certain countries are basically not functioning today economically. Togo is an example because of the inability to accrue funds under the precarious nature of COVID-19. So NDC cannot be intelligent than the main international associations that think that Ghana have managed COVID well. Trust me, the kind of situation NPP inherited, but for proper and efficient management of COVID-19, this country would have been worse than it is now. So clearly,
have you seen the various gradings of our economy recently?
The grading is not on the heart of COVID. I have seen a number of gradings in the past few days, and I think that the gradings are bad in the general outlook of the economy.
Right.
I think it is bad. I think it calls for a more robust approach to how we thrive and manage issues pertaining to the economy. So clearly, when we are talking about e-levy, I still think that it is not about mobile money has been narrowly skewed to create that understanding.
But my final question to you
but
is
indeed, it can be understood that a desperate opposition will do this. I do not think that the timing is right unless we go back for a re-engagement.
Right.
Purely on ground of the principle that governance must carry along the plight of the people. It's not about the threats of opposition to want to approve it or not. I think that opposition have actually hinged their argument on their unwillingness to help approve it on the basis of the suffering of the Ghanaian people. So it's fair enough.
I'll wrap up very soon. Now, Malik, kindly take us home.
There was a very simple tell us, I said, mention one brand new hospital that was built from foundation to roof.
And I'm saying it's ignorant to think that government must necessarily build new hospitals. No, it's a question you say you have asked.
Right.
So I am telling you where I answered you.
So I think it has been answered.
No. You, NDC come on the one hand to tell us governance is continuity.
Right.
So when we continue your projects, when you control your money, you think that is a bad thing.
So allow him. Kindly take us home.
Now, you said the funds that were brought in during the era of COVID-19 were directed, and so they were used for their intended purposes.
Yes.
I dare ask you, was one of those purposes the flying of a private jet at £17,000 per hour? Was one of those purposes that Because it was during the era of COVID-19 that President Akufo-Addo counted 17,000 pounds per hour in flying a chartered presidential jet, living like an Arabian king, swimming in a jacuzzi in it, sitting at a dining table, enjoying in a cinema. And I don't even want to mention the people that were on board with him during those times.
They mention them.
I don't want to mention.
Not mention them. I am telling you, you have mentioned. If you have the facts mentioned, your MPs in the finance committee approve those expenditures.
Right.
So you see the issue.
Exactly.
So that's the ignorance I'm talking about.
But those monies were approved by Parliament.
So what argument are you making here?
There was one very popular person in the
right.
with President Akufo.
Who is that popular person?
I don't want to mention.
Anyway,
I think that it's important we introduce proper knowledge breeding on this platform.
Right. I agree.
Proper knowledge breeding on this platform.
Oh, can you control?
No, you don't go on that tangent. No, let him mention those people.
I'll get him to do so.
Yes, get him to do that.
I mean,
and now tell him a comparison of private jet flying out by president.
I've told you on this platform.
You can go ahead.
I made the argument before COVID.
Okay.
Pre-COVID, President Akufo-Addo had borrowed over
180 billion. Tell me what those monies were used for. Pre-COVID.
President Akufo-Addo had increased our energy sector recovery levy to 20 pesos per litre. Pre-COVID, and he wanted to make, for the purpose of time, he wanted to make an argument that the way we left the economy was worse than they inherited.
Right.
Please, my brother, we left a gallon of fuel at 13 Ghana cedis. Today, petrol is going for 35 cedis per
What was the credit rating of this country?
We left the dollar at 4 Ghana
see,
cedis. Today, it's going for 6.2 Ghana cedis. We left this country with less than 18 taxes than we have today. Today, including Bola tax, President Akufo-Addo has imposed on us. Today, you have the NHIL COVID-19 tax. President Akufo-Addo, he had increased it, in fact, from 3.5%, from 2.5% to 3.5%. Today, the financial sector levy, whooping 5%, has been imposed on all banks by President Akufo-Addo. 18 and more brand new taxes have been brought in by President Akufo-Addo. And you attempt bringing an e-levy that's going to squeeze our little monies out of our pockets, and we say no, then you come and say
you've not mentioned the popular persons you talked about.
Listen, we can spare him that lies. We can spare him that lies because clearly
you know clearly
that President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Wamia, you know
they are allowed.
Nobody allow you. If we go that way, if an African knows I have gone very far from this kind of debate. But no, you should let him know that I have moved far away from that. If we are talking about people who have morally failed, then it is your name. Don't even let us go there, including naming children that are not legitimate. So, Pan-African knows I have moved very far from this kind of debate.
I mean, we don't need to do that tangent.
The fact of the matter is that these people, I have always told you, they are not only economically constrained. You see, the issue is common sense is missing in the argument of them. That is the point.
Okay,
I get it.
Thank you.
You also believe on private
so much, gentlemen.
when we tell you MPs that we do a comparison. You see, I don't blame you. It is the person in your car as you came here. That is why you are doing
right.
We know the one in your car.
Thank you so much, my brother. Elvis. Thank you so much,
Africa should know that.
Thank you so much, Malik. These are my brothers. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you for coming. Goodbye. Thank you all so much. Goodbye.